G'day guys, Luke here from Tech Blokes, and today we are doing a 6-monthly review of the Nintendo Switch Lite, but I'm also going to compare it side by side with the original Switch. So the Switch Lite came out 6 months ago on the 20th of September 2019, and I was fortunate enough to pick it up on the day it came out. It's such a great little device, but the original Switch still holds up really well. So what I wanted to do is just do a full comparison and let you know which device I tend to pick up more often than the other, and I'll just go through all of the things that I've noticed after owning both devices for 6 months. So first of all, I thought what we could do is just go through all of the general things that we would look at when you're doing a side-by-side comparison. So we're going to do screen quality, we'll do the speakers, the build quality, battery life, and more of a long-term review. Alright, so first of all, the screen quality on both is really good. What I will say is I much prefer using the bigger Switch for open world games. So if you think of Zelda, if you think of things like Skyrim, if you think of like any other game where it's like an open world and you need to see a large majority of your environment and your surroundings, the larger Switch is definitely better. It just gives you that little bit more screen real estate. And if you're into those type of games, I would probably say right off the bat, just get the larger Switch. It's a better choice because you're going to appreciate having much more screen real estate. That being said, the screen quality on the Switch Lite is still really good, very crisp, everything looks really good. I have absolutely no complaints with the screen quality on the Switch Lite at all. I wish it was Super AMOLED. I think that would have been a really smart move, but in my opinion, Nintendo's probably going to do a Super AMOLED panel or a higher quality panel in one of their next Switch models, maybe the Switch Pro, and I think that will definitely help with battery life. Now, if we move on, the actual build quality of both devices is really good. The original Switch obviously does a lot more, having the option to slide off the control sticks or the Joy-Cons on either side is a big bonus, but in my opinion, as much as I love the original Switch and it is very well built, there is a bit of creaking that goes on whenever you kind of force on each side of the console itself. So if you're the kind of player that kind of like really clicks hard on your actual Joy-Cons, there's definitely a bit of creak and a bit of back and forward in the device itself. What I will say for the Switch Lite is it definitely is, because it's one solid piece, there's nothing that kind of creaks and moves, it definitely feels better. The thing that really makes the Switch Lite feel better is that it has these rounded edges all the way around the console, and I really do appreciate how well that actually sits in my hand. When you're holding it, it's super comfortable. Not that the original Switch was uncomfortable, but this one just really molds into your hands, and I do appreciate the thought that Nintendo has put into how well it does sit into your hands. So build quality, both good, but I definitely would give more points to the Switch Lite. One thing, this is probably a small thing, but I tend to find that, you know, if I'm busy around the house or maybe I've got 10 minutes and I want to sit down and have a quick game, I don't know why, but I tend to lean towards the Switch Lite because it is just that little bit more comfortable, and it's not sort of taxing on my hands per se. I find that the actual Joy-Cons or the joysticks are a little bit more comfortable. I find they sit on my thumbs a bit better. And other than that, the buttons are great on both. I love having the D-pad. I mentioned this in the first video that I did. If you're a Tetris player, you've got to have that D-pad. And even playing the original Super Nintendo games just feels better. It just feels like you're going back to that old school Nintendo. Personally, I kind of do appreciate having the D-pad, having the rounded corners, and I kind of wished that the original Switch had that. So build quality, both great. Just my personal preference is I tend to lean towards the Switch Lite. Now speakers, okay, so speakers are a bit weak on the Switch Lite. Personally, if you're the kind of guy that really appreciates really good sound quality, the original Switch is better. It puts out better audio quality, it's more immersive, and personally, you know, if you're gonna get one of these consoles, and you know that you're going to spend time really cranking up the volume, definitely pick up the original Switch. The speakers are much better, and this is the original console, so it's not the rehashed version with the better battery life. This is the original one, and I'm very happy with the speaker quality. You know, they're not earth-shattering or anything like that, but they are definitely better than the Switch Lite. I find the Switch Lite is probably just a little bit too quiet. Even when I'm sitting on the couch and there's no other noise, I find even with this cranked right up, it's way too quiet. The headphone quality that comes out of both is excellent. I've had absolutely no complaints whatsoever with the quality that comes out of the headphone jack on both devices. I think Nintendo's still got a little way to go with voice chat, but hopefully they'll get there soon. All right, so let's talk a little bit about battery life. Now, I'll just say I've never sat down and had a 4-hour gaming session and been able to flatten the battery on either of these switches. So this is how I typically use it. So I've got a 3-year-old, and for me, sitting down to have a quick game normally involves a 20-minute game of Tetris or Trials or Mario Kart or some other game where it's just a quick stint, and then I'll put it away and I might pick it up the next day for a couple of minutes as well. So typically how I work it is I'll charge the device overnight, and then it will sit either beside my bed or in my drawer, and then I'll have a quick half an hour game just every now and again, just to sort of kill time. For me, I'm not doing hour or 2-hour long stints of gaming. So battery life for me is more about how long the standby time is. And I think personally, I've found the Switch Lite to have slightly better standby time. Like I said, I've never done a full 4-hour gaming stint, so I can't compare in that regard. What I will say is every time I've gone to pick up the Switch Lite, the battery life hasn't let me down. I'll only play for 10 or 20 minutes, put it away, put it back in the drawer, and then a week later, it's still got enough power for another quick gaming session. So if you are a really hardcore gamer, I would suggest you pick up not the Switch Lite, not the original Switch, but the rehashed version of the Switch that's just come out about 3 or 4 months ago, and that gives you much better battery life. If that's you, and battery life is a super important thing, if you travel a lot, if you're on a plane a lot, definitely grab the newer version of the Switch. One thing I really love is the ability to charge both of these devices with USB Type-C. If you've got a newer Samsung device like the S20 or even a Google Pixel device, the 18-watt charger or the 25-watt Samsung charger will charge either of these switches, and it does so really, really quickly. So that is a massive, big bonus for me. It just means you only have to have one charger. It also means if you've got a longer USB Type-C cable, you can sit in bed and charge this at the same time just off your Samsung charger. So battery life, both really good. For me, again, I've just found the standby time to be slightly better on the Switch Lite. All right, now just a quick long-term review. If I was to go out and pick up either of these devices again, which one would I pick up? And this is what it comes down to for me, and I think for a lot of older gamers, mature gamers, I think this is going to be the biggest selling point. When you get the original Switch, you get the ability to sit it in a dock and plug it into your TV with HDMI and enjoy games on the big screen. Unfortunately, for me, that's not really a luxury that I get to enjoy very often because I'm busy with work, I've got kids, I've got I'm renovating a house, I've got heaps of other things going on. So having a quick game in bed or on the couch is really what I use the Nintendo Switch for. And the only thing I really use the dock for is charging the original Switch. If you're the type of guy or girl that is busy and the Nintendo Switch is a console that you use just to kill a little bit of time and play some classic Nintendo games, personally, I think the Switch Lite is the better choice. It has everything that the original Switch has, except for obviously the ability to take off the Joy-Cons and to dock it and play on your TV. Now, if you're a hardcore gamer and gaming on the TV and having, big gaming sessions with friends is what you want to do, go for this original Switch or the rehashed version, the new one. It offers way more flexibility, you know, being able to take this with you and sit it on a table and, you know, clip the Joy-Cons into a gamepad. That's obviously makes sense. I find that the Switch Lite will fit in my pockets, which is really cool. So, you know, if I'm gonna walk to work, I can just slip it straight into my pocket. It's really pocketable. I've just found over the last 6 months, almost every time I tend to pick up the Switch Lite. I find it more comfortable. I prefer the D-pad, I prefer the control sticks over the original, and I just prefer the aesthetics. I feel like it looks like a classic Nintendo device, and the bright yellow is really cool and just sort of grabs my attention. Now, that's not to say that the original Switch is outdated by any means. It's still super powerful. There's so many awesome games about to come out. You know, we're getting the classic Borderland games, which will be really cool to try out on the Nintendo Switch. And Nintendo is always updating their massive library of incredible games. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions about owning either of these devices, please let me know. If there's anything that you want more detail on, or maybe you want to find out something more in detail about the Switch Lite, drop me a comment below and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.